Good afternoon. We are here to introduce the new head coach of the San Francisco 49ers, Jim Tomsula. It's been a long process, a detail-oriented on that, to who we talk to and what we about. We're here to make sure that we talk about our new head coach and where we're going. I'm so excited that Jim is here, and we're ready to get rolling. We'll turn it over to Trent.
Well, as Jed just said, this was an exhausting process. We went about this in a very thorough manner and set out to find the next head coach, the next leader of this organization. And the one thing I want to say as I was going through this process, as we were going through this process, it was very clear there's a lot of good football coaches out there. We met with some of the best coaches, best young coaches in the profession. And as we were going through it, you know, we set out when we talked about talked about the pedigree, looking for the right pedigree, looking for the right leader, looking for the right teacher, looking for the right motivator. There were a lot of things that we were looking for. And I've been pretty fortunate in my career to be around some very good football coaches and learned a lot through that process. And it's hard when you're interviewing people to find individuals that check all of the boxes you're looking for. And a lot of the guys that we talked to, you could check a lot of those boxes. But I kept coming back to, and we kept coming back to as a group, Jim Tomsula. Because all of those boxes that we were talking about, he checked. And we interviewed Jim initially. Then we brought him back in for a second interview. And at that time, still were undecided on what direction we wanted to go. But always knew that all the boxes we were looking for were checked. He's a man of high integrity, person that we were low humility, has a lot of humility, I should say. And one of the finest men I've ever been fortunate enough to be around. And all of those things that you're looking for in a football coach are important, but even more so what you're looking for in the person. And there's no doubt in my mind as we went through the process that this was the right man for the job. He checked all the boxes. He's an individual that I've had the privilege of working with for 8 years now. And through the interview process, really identified himself, sold himself on what he was going to do to bring this organization together, bring this football team together, and lead us to a lot of success on the field and off the field. And very confident that through the process we found the right guy. That guy is Jim Tomsula. I'd like Jim to come up here now as the 19th head coach of the San Francisco 49ers.
Okay, I'm not a note guy, but I want to make sure I thank some people here and get going. And thank you both. Obviously, I'm very proud to be standing here right now. Okay, and journey isn't. I completely understand that. My journey's taken that family on, what, 3 continents, and nothing has been the norm. So I am used to not normal. and I'm very comfortable in not normal. Okay, I didn't say I was not normal. Okay, but as we go here, I have to thank Jed, the York family, first-class family, and Brian, all the guys back here, all our VPs and the boys, and Trent Bulkey. I get it. I get the decision that these men just made. I get it. I accept it. I know what it is, and I'm real excited about it. Okay? Real excited about it. The other thing I want to get in, I got to thank my family. Okay? I've got to thank my Bear, my Brooke, my Brittany, and then there's my Julie. And that's my world. Got to thank my family and my mother and father, all the extended family, and what they've done for me and shown me and taught me, in that steel mill country. And I've got to thank all the coaches and people that have taken a chance on Jim Tomsula and given him a shot. That was way back at 27 when Lionel Taylor hired me in the NFL Europe, and I was the youngest guy in the D-line room. And I didn't know I was on probation until the training camp was over, all the way through, and everything everybody's taken time to teach me. And I got to thank players, because players have affected my life. They have football players have dramatically affected the lives of my children and my family. My daughters learned times tables in elevators in Scotland and Berlin from football players. They'd jump on the elevator, somebody would yell 6 times 6. Or somebody else would yell something Deutsch, specken Sie Deutsch. And that was football players. We lived with football players for 8, 9 years. We lived half a year in a hotel with football players. And it was tremendous. It was awesome. And for my daughters to be raised around and amongst football players was great. And I want to make sure I say that. And football players, guys will always say, hey, Coach, thanks for teaching me that. Football players have taught me way more than I'll ever teach them. Okay. I am that guy. You look at me. I didn't play for the San Francisco 49ers. It was everything I could to get on the field at Division II. Okay. And I am in awe of the skill set and the things that these men can do and the way they fight through things and the determination and all those qualities that you admire and the way they go through it. So I have to thank the football players. And last, I've always got to thank God. I'm very grateful. Okay. So there's my thanks. There's my deal. As we go through here with the San Francisco 49ers, and we talk about the organization that these men have built and ladies have built, what a village. I'm that guy that's into the village. I believe it takes a village. I believe no one man does anything by himself. I think the strength is in the people around them and the way people come together. And my philosophies on life are about people and personal relationships. And I think that is football. I think football puts you in a position to really strain those things and tighten those things and play in those areas, and you learn about yourself. So when you look at our facility and you look at the work that's done in the community, with the community relations, the youth football programs, the Make-A-Wish, I mean, all these different things. Raising money for the ladies have the fashion shows and all those things. That's a great thing that's going on at the 49ers. And I know we're here to talk about football, we're going to get to it, but I think all this is part of it. And all this is part of why I'm so proud to be a part of this and what's built. Joan in payroll. She's not only in payroll, Joan's my financial advisor. Joan makes sure I got enough money in the 401k. You know, I mean, it's just, you go on and on and on. Velma at the front desk. You've got all these wonderful people in the building. Okay, Raul and the boys downstairs. Okay, and they come in and make you that great Mexican feast at Christmas. Okay, there's a whole lot that goes on inside this building that nobody knows about. Okay, that we live. So with that, you really get an understanding of, or we all have an understanding of what we're a part of. So, tell you with me, with the football, I take all that. I take all these people and all these things that are going on, and I understand the responsibility, and I understand that people are counting on things to get done the right way, a certain way. I clearly understand the expectations of the ownership on and off the field. With that, it's very, very exciting. So that's all I have. Bob, you want me to sit or you want me to stand?
If we could get you to sit in the middle between Jed and Trent, that would be awesome, and we can open it up to questions.
No questions? All right, thanks.
Not so fast. We'll go ahead and open it up to questions. If you could do us a favor with Coach, I think he knows most of the people in this room, but if you could give us your name and your affiliation when you ask your question, that would be great. Go ahead with Cam.
Jim, Cam Edmonds, the Mercury News. Jim, can you just talk about, the search has gone on for about 2 times to see a new surface and this job or not?
Cam, I'll tell you what, I mean, my particular instance in it, I hit got some workouts, I got some film done, and got to see a lot of karate, and I really enjoyed that part of it, but I mean, I'm not going to stand here and tell you that, you're not thinking this or that, you try to stay off the, I got on, I told my wife I wasn't exercising because those TVs were in front of the elliptical, I didn't want to sit there and look at it. Yeah, I mean, it's something that you go through life and sometimes you're afraid to want something, and you find yourself going into that ebb and flow, and so there sometimes, but it was always honest. I can't say there's a lot of communication. I mean, there were meetings, there were do it, and I knew they were on the road. I didn't ask where, nobody told me where.
Matt Mayo, go see us in the Bay Area. Trent, how does this move make the 49ers a better team?
Well, it's a process, Matt, and we said all along that finding the right guy for this job was the most important thing. And Jim is I can't say enough about the things we talked about, looking for the pedigree, looking for the work ethic, looking for the leadership, looking for everything that man in that position brings to the table. And very confident that what he brings to the table will galvanize this football team and allow us to take the next step.
And to the left.
Ann Killian with the San Francisco Chronicle. Jed has made it pretty clear that the standards for success mean winning a Super Bowl and also winning with class. And so I want to ask you, will this team win the Super Bowl a year from now? And what's your definition of winning with class?
Okay. Well, this team, I'm not going to sidestep you, okay? I'm not going to write a check, okay? I'm not going to tell you, I'd rather show you, I'd rather do it, I'd rather work towards it. All our efforts will go into that. But clearly, everybody in that locker room understands what the expectation is. And I think, you know, and again, I look at that, and my boss is right here, so they can tell me, but I look at that answer and I look at that expectation of winning a Super Bowl every year. And I don't know that anybody goes into an NFL season not wanting and expecting to go win the Super Bowl. I mean, owners want Super Bowls, and I understand that. And this franchise has quite a few, and yeah, I got it. Tough act to follow. I understand that, but fully understand that. I fully understand that, you know, that's what's wanted, and anything short of that, we did not achieve what we were expected to achieve. Now, winning with class, well, I mean, one statement that comes to mind for me is the difference between confidence and arrogance is ignorance. So there's the way you carry yourself. There's a fine line of crossing from confident to arrogant. And, you know, I think sometimes we teeter on that, especially today in our world. You know, confident people, to me, people, they dance on that line too much. So I think that's the first step of winning with class. Second step of winning with class is how you conduct yourself. Okay? A lot of people say that the speed of the game is the biggest difference between, you know, college and pro football. I happen to disagree. I think it's the speed of life. It's young people with so much, so fast, and being able to handle it, being able to channel it, and having people around them to guide, to advise, to care. So those factors there, which I will say was a big part of my interview, and proactive approaches to things, and things that I know our organization is doing, and the way things are going that way, and that's exciting, and it's all to benefit the players.
Could I ask a follow-up? As head coach, and you had the Alden Smith or Ray McDonald, would you have made different decisions than the organization made in the past?
Oh, ma'am, I don't want to do that. I'm not going to answer your question there, just out of respect to everything.
We got Mindy over here in the middle.
Dr. Comcast Percent, congratulations. And can you tell me, did you approach any of the former assistants on the staff about staying on, and where are you as for filling out your staff right now?
Yes, ma'am. In the process, and yes, and I'd rather not go any further. Well, I mean, you know, I just would rather not get in. I'm not going to go any deeper than that right now.
We've got Matt on the left in the second row.
Matt Barrows, Sacramento Bee. Can you talk about your X's and O's philosophy? What type of defense do you want to run? What do you want to see on offense going forward?
My X's and O's philosophy are quite simply, you build a team to a scheme. You go into the draft, you go into the free agency, and you're in the talent acquiring business to a scheme. Okay, and then I feel like the most important thing is when that's over, now you have to do a 180. And now, see, I look at it from a personnel to fit a scheme. So I'm looking at that scheme, and I'm trying to fit the pieces. Okay, we don't live in a perfect world. It's not a perfect science. Okay, things happen. Okay, people, you know, aren't available. So once we have that talent and we have those players, now we have to flip that. And now we look at it, we want to take that scheme and fit it to the players. So to me, when you talk philosophical, that's the way in building your schematics, in building your approach to teaching and your building blocks. That's where you have to have the latitude built in there to be able, you know, it's a structure. player. So I hope that answers your question.
Matt, I think somewhere in there, he said we're gonna run the football.
Are you gonna have a 3-4 or a 4-3 type of defense? Is that?
Yeah, well, our personnel's fit for that right now. We'll go into that, but I mean, as we get coaching staffs and everybody together, we'll move forward in those areas.
We've got Janie in the front row to the left. Janie?
Jane McCollum, Filmmaker, congratulations.
Thank you.
You talked about your journey being not a normal one per se. What did you learn on some of those stops that prepared you for this? You know, and even some of your odd jobs along the way, working nights and some of those jobs.
Well, the first thing I found out, I don't want to be sappy, I know this is a football thing, but when you find somebody you love, grab them, hold on to them, don't let them go. Okay? Because as long as you got them with you and you're rolling, we're going to be all right. So that's the first thing I learned. The second thing I learned was why not? Why not? Okay, why? Why not? Let's go. Let's do it. And take the step. Let's go. All in. Okay? But don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to step in. You know, get up and look. Step in. Jump in. Let's go. All in. And roll. And you know, the magic tricks and the you know, all the fluff and stuff in life and all those things, or in football or anything we're doing, you know, outwork them. You know, and that's not just physical. That's just not physical. I mean, outwork them mentally, physically. Outwork people. Earn it. Earn it. I mean, we all love people that earn it. Okay? And, you know, we've talked. The baseball coach. How are you? But, you know, in those fields, and people earn it every day. And when you talk about them, your face beams. You know, earn it. And getting around, you know, getting around people that you enjoy doing it with.
Tim?
Cal Gomez, Sensory News. Jed,
Yes.
you had Jim as your interim coach for one game in 2010. Is that when you've known him for long, is that when you first started thinking maybe he was a head coaching candidate down the road? And how involved were you in this process? Is this your pick?
This is our pick, you know, and I think that's the most important thing. It's our pick as the San Francisco 49ers. You know, in terms of me, when did I know Jim was going to be our head coach of the San Francisco 49ers? You know, we talked to Jim yesterday around 11 a.m. You know, and I think there was always things in Jim that you saw that he had the potential to do that. But this was a long process to figure out over the last couple of weeks who's the right man to lead us. And I think we made the right choice, and I'm excited about it.
We got Eric over on the left.
I'm Eric Branch from the San Francisco Chronicle. You have talked about, as far as defensive line play, smashing the gap. I mean, it's kind of a savage mentality, which obviously is football.
You're going to get me in trouble here.
But would you like to, you know, when you look at your football team, you know, see, I guess, that type of attitude, you know, on your offense, all over your defense? I mean, is that, Trent mentioned running the ball. I mean, just kind of that physical nature that you preached as far as to your defensive line. I mean, I guess, would you like to see that all over your football?
Yes. Yes, I firmly believe that's what the sport is. Within the rules and safely, but with everything you have and as aggressively as you can do it. With everything you have.
Are you a big fan of power running?
Sir?
Are you a big fan of power running?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of running, you know, and however that needs to get done. But, I mean, really, there's nothing, really. I mean, we all talk about the vertical pass, but it is pretty when you see two guys get together, two old linemen, and knock that guy off the ball, or a D lineman knock a guy back into the gap. that is pretty too.
We've got Malika over here in the right, second row.
Malika Bobno with Post News Group in Huffington Post. Defense is your expertise with that. What do you do for Colin Kaepernick? Do you bring someone in to work with him? What's your plan and strategy for protecting his game and making him a better quarterback?
Yes, ma'am. I mean, we're going to have, not just the quarterback, but for everybody, going through the, again, when you look at my background, and I did coach offense, it was a long time ago, and it was a split back veer, but player development and teaching players and coaching players in the skill development, I am passionate about that. I think that is very equally as important as the schematic itself. So I believe that there's got to be the balance there. So there will be, I'm excited about the possibilities, not the possibilities, but the people that we can, the things that we can do with Colin Kaepernick and how we can help him keep growing. Let's not act like, that's a really good football player. Okay, let's not, that's a really, really good football player. Okay, so we want to help him keep being good and keep getting better, and he wants to do it. So we're excited about that.
We're going to go with Paul over here in the second row, black coat.
Hey, Jim, Paul Gutierrez from ESPN.com. Dovetailing on that question about Colin, how does he fit into your vision? I mean, obviously, you're, as you said, the last time you run offense was the split back veer, but he seems like he kind of changes the game a little bit as a dual threat quarterback, running, passing. You saw a different style of offense last year. What's your vision for what he can do for this team going forward?
I think he can run. I think he can throw. I think he can change the pace of a game, change the speed of a game. I think he's very intelligent. I think he can do a lot of things. You know, when I put it all together, he can do a lot of things with his feet. He can do a lot of things with his hands. He can do a lot of things with his arms. And he can do a lot of things with his eyes. And he can do a lot of things with his brain. And more so than a traditional quarterback, he does it with the lower body. And look at that, corral it, and let's accentuate those things. And as we continue to strengthen other areas, you know, which we all have. I mean, every player on the field has that.
Do you get the sense, though, that he maybe needs to be unleashed a little bit more than he was last year, going back to how he played his first couple of years in the league?
I want people to have fun playing football.
We got Ann in the second row next to Paul. Left.
Jim, you've been here, I believe, on the staff longer than anyone, and you were here when this team was unsuccessful, very mediocre. You were here when a new coach came in and created a very successful environment, and now that environment has kind of imploded or whatever. And I'm wondering what you take away from each of those head coaches that you worked for, and why do you think a coach was able to make such a difference in terms of wins and losses on the field, and what do you take from each of those that you worked for?
Well, I mean, the first thing I'll say to that question is I have a great amount of respect for all those coaches. When you're talking specifically, you know, those head coaches, I have a great amount of respect. And but I'll also say, you know, we talk about it a lot. We all take a bite of that sandwich. I understand the head coach is there, and the head coach he's that guy. He's the point man. Understand that. But I don't think when a team has struggles, it's all the head coach, or it's, you know, all the players, or it's all of this, or okay, it's everybody. And getting those things straightened out, and just each individual taking the responsibility of that, and you know, I don't know that we imploded. You know, I know it was not a good year. It's not what we expect. It's not what our fans expect, and It's not what you expect. It was not a good year. But I don't think it was an implosion. It wasn't good, you know?
What about in 2011, when the leap was made to being so good? What was the difference then, from your point of view on the staff?
Ma'am, I didn't hear, I'm sorry.
In 2011, when Harbaugh was hired, and the team took the leap forward,
Yeah.
you were one of the few pieces of continuity there. What was the reason?
I'll tell you the truth, I actually, the laugh that I had with it, I don't have a pinpoint answer to that, but the laugh I had with it was, all the guys, we were off. It was a lockout. So we were off. So coaches couldn't interact with players. And so our players were getting together themselves. Ownership from the players. They were getting together themselves, and they were working out, and they were over at San Jose State, and they were, I'm not sure where else, and they were running some mountains and hills over there, and they were doing it together, and you know, I think there's a couple of reasons there, but you know, I think that there was a bonding thing that kind of happened, you know, and it was like time away, time together. And they were doing it, and they had to do it, and just that group of guys together that were spearheading that, and the way you guys kept growing it every week, more people would come, and it turned into it morphed, and they were really working hard, and driving each other, and having fun doing it. And then when we came into training camp that year, I mean, you had a crew of guys. Yeah, they had to, you know, there was some X's and O's and some playbook stuff we had to learn. You know, couldn't learn that much. You know, couldn't install the, you know, the encyclopedia. But what was installed was nice and tight, and the guys were so excited, and the coaches there did a great job. A great job of getting it done and getting things installed. So, you know, I think all that together had to do it. I mean, it was players, coaches, the schematics, and but the overlying factor to me was the way those guys handled it. There were other teams during the lockout. Nobody saw each other. They were all wherever they were, all over the country, and you know, they were all fired up when they got back from lockout, high five, and hey, how you doing? You grew a beard, you know. So our guys didn't do that. We had a really large, a good core of guys that stuck together for that.
All right, we've got Colin back in front of the cameras.
Colin Rash, ABC7. Jed, what makes Coach Tomsula more worthy of the job today as opposed to 4 years ago?
Definitely more experience with being in this organization, you know, being a leader within this organization. I think, again, this is a different search than what we did 4 years ago. And there's a much more detailed, thorough search to figure out the right fit. But I think Jim Tomsula is the type of guy that, whether it was today, whether it was 4 years ago, whether it was 10 years ago, I think he would have been ready to step in and take the job. I think that's his mindset. I don't think he's afraid to fail. So I don't know that he's more ready today than ever before, but certainly more time and more experience in being in this organization, I don't think that's a negative in any way, shape, or form.
We're going to go Mark Purdy, second row, far left.
Yeah, Mark Purdy from the Mercury News. I understand and respect your desire not to comment on any specific issues last year, but could you give us a sense for what your attitude is toward discipline on the team, and whether you come down and more severe about that or less severe, and what the head coach's role in those sorts of things is?
First of all, when we talk about discipline, you know, to me, I see discipline as a good word. A lot of people, I mean, I think that the connotations that we get with discipline is a negative connotation. You know, it's an action or a reaction to an action. And discipline to me is a way of life. And you know, we talk about it. The guys, you know, think big in small ways. You know, and I know it sounds petty, but you know, just defensively, you guys, the way at the end of the meeting, we're on the road in the hotel. Everybody, hey, pick up your stuff. You know, just, I know that sounds really small, but that, it starts adding up, you know, and it's to me, it's big picture stuff, but in real small ways. You know, pack your own bag for the game. Don't forget your shoes. You know, I mean, that sounds, I mean, we're talking elementary, but I mean, those are things that are big. Now, when you talk about the overall picture with the discipline of the team, that's been made very clear. That's been made very clear to the team, okay? Again, I'm not going to get into past incidents, but that's not the way we're going to conduct business moving forward. That's been made very apparent. That has been made black and white. People do make mistakes. Things like that get handled accordingly. And I think one of the things that excites me about our organization is treating you know, when something, having the reaction to fit what it is, but also the proactive approach that our organization is doing. I saw a lot of, I've listened to a lot of revamping, rethinking, a lot of, you know, obviously a lot of literature and studies and things like that, and things being in place, people putting in place, okay? I mean, you're all aware of Keena Turner and Reverend Earl and Dr. Harry Edwards, and I don't want to say, anyway, they're great resources for the guys, and seeing what's going on that way. And again, that's internal stuff, and we'll leave that alone, but it's really good to see.
Yeah, how much of that did you learn as being the head coach in NFL Europe about how to deal with that stuff? Did that
That's what I learned.
What was the most thing you learned there? Along those lines.
Really, honestly, I tell you this. I lived in a hotel with my wife and daughters. My girls were young, 1 and 3 when we first went over. I lived in a hotel, and players everywhere around. I mean, everywhere around us. You know, from 25 to at the beginning, 25 to 35, and good-looking athletes. You know, young guys and football players. 8, 9 years, I guess it's 9 years. Not one time did I ever have to ask a football player to watch his language or be a gentleman around my family. So I saw that the first couple of years, and then we started inviting guys with when they were married, inviting their wives to come over for the season. And all of a sudden, things changed. I mean, guys, the way they were acting and the way they were doing it. And there was an expectation level. And you just really saw people meet expectations. So if my expectation was here, they'd meet it. And if my expectation was here, you know, it improved. And the expectation wasn't just words, it was just a way of walking and talking and the way you do things. And lastly, it reconfirmed my opinion of, I think everything in this world is personal relationships. It's people. It's people. It's 100% people and how you interact.
All right, we've got Grant here in the front row.
Grant Cohen, Santa Rosa Press Democrat. Typically, when a team promotes a head coach from within the organization, it's a coordinator, not a position coach. Why is Jim Tomsula a better fit for the job than Vic Fangio, who was an extremely successful defensive coordinator here?
Yeah, I mean, again, we're not going to talk about other people, but when you're talking about Jim and why is he the right guy, I think we've talked about leadership and talked about what Jim wants to do as a head coach. And I think what makes a head coach successful is you're the head coach. You're not the head coach of the defense. You're not the head coach of the offense. You're the head coach of the entire team. And Jim's experiences in coaching, Jim's 46 years old. How many seasons?
31.
31 seasons of football. 2 a year for what, 8, 9 years?
Yeah.
Being a head coach in different places, being on the offensive side, being on the defensive side, and understanding how to coach as coaches and how to have the right game management, how to operate a game, and how to operate an entire program. Those are the skill sets to me that set Jim Tomsula apart from any candidate that we talk to.
We've got Cam over here, second row middle, left.
Hey, Jim, to get back to the offensive side if we could. If you had a chance, you talked about the power run. Obviously, Frank Gore has been such a big part of this team for 10 years. Have you had a chance to interact with Frank at all since you became the coach, or talk to Colin? Those two guys, maybe on the defensive side, have you had a chance to try to lure Justin Smith back?
No. Tonight, I just got the list, so everything's been going crazy, you know how it is. So I got the list of phone numbers to get calling the guys tonight and get going.
We got William in the back.
How involved are you going to be in terms of who's going to be on the team and players and make the tire come back and so forth and the rest? How involved are you in the selection process?
Well, I mean, the way I've seen it since I've been here, and and since we've been doing it together, I mean, it's a group effort. Everybody collectively gets together and talks about the vision. We set the plan, and then we work from the plan. So that's I think position. I've seen it as a position coach, very involved in the guys that were in my room, and I know with coordinators and through the head coach and the general manager and the personnel department.
I think we can also say as you look, it's going to be business as usual for the San Francisco 49ers. It's not going to operate any differently under Jim than it operated under Coach Harbaugh before, or even under Coach Singletary before that. As Jim said, it's going to be group decisions. At the end of the day, somebody has to make the final decision, but it's a process. It's a process that you go through. Anytime you're acquiring anybody, whether that's a coach, someone within the front office, or a player, there's a process to it. And everybody needs to be involved in that process. And then once you've talked it through, you make the final decision and you make it work. And I don't see it operating any differently.
All right, we've got Albert, third row left, middle.
Albert Breer from NFL. Chip, will the reporting structure change at all versus what it was? I know both Harbaugh and Trent reported to you. Is that going to remain the same with Jim?
No, Jim reported to Trent.
Okay, so that'll stay the same?
It's the same structure, again, as it's been going back.
Okay, so if with, I've heard Jim say the phrase personal relationships a lot. How important, based on what he said, how important was familiarity and the relationship that you guys have had over the last 8 years in this city?
I mean, I'd be lying if I said that didn't play a factor. But, I mean, when we sat down originally and talked, I mean, we said, you're in the running for this, but you need to understand, you need to think about not being the head coach of the San Francisco 49ers as well. Because, it's nice to have familiarity, but you also see with familiarity things that might not be the perfect fit. And, I think that's really a big piece of it. So it's nice to have familiarity, but that's not what set Jim Tomsula apart from all the other candidates that we spoke to.
We're going to go with Matt right there in front of Albert.
For Trent, I think a lot of the fans are having trouble reconciling how well this team performed on defense in recent years, including this past year, and not retaining, I guess, aside from Jim, any of the defensive coaches. Why not, bring Fangio back or bring Donatel back, some of those guys?
Well, Matt, there were discussions. There were discussions that were had throughout this process, and I'm not going to get into all the specifics of each of those discussions. But it's just safe to assume that throughout those discussions, we came to this plan forward. To pull that side of the ball together, just as we do the entire staff. You know, when you hire a head coach, you're hiring one man. One man can't do this job. And I think Jim recognizes that, as we all do. It's going to take the village, and it's going to take a number of quality coaches to fill those roles. And we're in that process right now. Jim's been working tirelessly. I don't know if he slept last night. If he did, he was texting me at 3:30 this morning. But it's a process that we're going through. We're going to find the best coaches we can possibly find. There's no shortage of good coaches out there. And there's no shortage of good coaches that want to be a part of the San Francisco 49ers. And now it's our job to go out there and find them. And feel confident that we're going to be able to do that.
I'm going to go with Matt here in the front.
Along those lines, whose staff is this going to be? You know, there was a lot of talk last night that, Trent, you were calling the assistants. How are you guys going to work together? Does Jim have carte blanche to hire whomever he wants to his staff?
Well, there's two parts to that question. And we handled this situation much like we did the last situation, which we were in 4 years ago. And I felt a personal responsibility to those coaches, because they were a part of the staff that Jim and I had put together, 4 years ago. So I felt, once again, it was my job to call out, reach out to those coaches and visit with them. And didn't want to do that on the phone. And but in this business, there's a sense of urgency to things, and for their sake and for ours. And through that process, asked them to come in today, and which the majority did. And we sat down face to face and went through everything. And I think that's what people lose sight of. This is a tough business, but there's a human side to every decision. And as you look at the families that are displaced, oftentimes in this business, you can't help but hurt in some manner. So to me, the closure is getting in front of them, visiting with them, and making sure they know that we're going to do everything possible to help them in any way that we can. And as far as the second part, whose staff is this? It's our staff. I get tired of the same questions all the time relative to, who's got final say, who's pulling the trigger, who's doing. We're doing it. I can't emphasize that enough. Not one person is going to make every decision in this building. There's different people in different roles, and at different times, different people are going to be responsible for the final decision. But one thing I'm confident of is we're going to do this together, and we're going to do it together from day one on. And Jim has spent a lot of time on the phone talking to coaches, gauging interest, setting up interviews, setting up discussions. Am I going to be a part of that process? Yes. Am I going to be the final decision maker? No. Jim's putting together a staff that he feels he can go out and work every day with, because it's tough business. You spend a lot of hours together. So it isn't always getting the best. It's getting the best that can work together. And that's the goal. That's the objective. Finding 17 people, 18 people, whatever that number is, that can really come together and get it done.
And can I just ask Jim along those same lines, how difficult is it for you to have to part ways with a lot of guys that you've been on the staff with for 4 years, and some, another person more than 4 years?
Yeah, I mean, you've seen this before. I mean, you've watched it, and it's hard. It is, but it's part of what we do. And decisions are made and by everybody, and those decisions are made. We all try to have a level head and make those decisions the best we can for ourselves and each other, and then we move forward. And that's just what we have to do.
All right, we've got Mindy here.
building on what's been here since you've been here, can you just share one change that you're looking forward to improve as the head coach? I mean, what's going to be unique with Jim Tomsula team? What's your imprint?
To be, let's wait and see.
All right.
Let's wait and see.
We got Malika here on the right. We're going to do a couple more.
Oh, okay. When you talk about process and decision-making, you add a lot of key pieces to your offense. Is that some of the things that you're thinking about now? It could be to the whole camp about, because you have the dynamic of senior veterans and young guys. You know, you have like Frank Gore and you have Vernon Davis. Do you think in your process, you keep those pieces for the dynamic you have and teaching them and learning, and for them to learn and move forward and be better, or do you just start all over?
The team dynamic, it's really, and I think we've all experienced it, but the team dynamic is the key to me. It's not a collection of talent. You know, it's a team sport, you know. I mean, so that whole dynamic, how the guys, and we've all been a part of a team somewhere, whether it was a team negotiating a deal, whether it was a team playing a sport, whether it was a team, you know, a group, a great jazzercise class or yoga class, or, you know, there's always been that one, you've gone somewhere and you've walked out and said, that was cool. Everybody kind of mixed, right? You know what I mean? We got these words, the culture, the chemistry, we're always trying to put our hands on it. We're always trying to, and to me, that's the magic of it, you know, and how these guys are. And you were hitting it on the head, I think, when you started some of the examples. You've looked at the roster, you know, with Frank Gore and some of the other running backs and some of the guys coming back. And I mean, there's a neat dynamic there. Really, yeah, it's really cool, you know, and you know, Bruce is, you know, rolling. Yeah, there's a real cool dynamic there. And then when you look at you know, other areas of the team, you see some real neat dynamics and guys working together and guys doing things. You know, they start answering each other's or finishing each other's sentences and you know, that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's a real cool thing, and you know, that's an area I really want the guys to grab and go with. Have fun doing this. I know it's hard. I mean, it's hard work, and it's but you know what I'm talking about. It's fun when it's rolling. And you got the boys, and you're going, and you're rolling, and I mean, it's fun, and it's allowed to be. Yeah, it's work, it's a job. I got all that, but it is the game of football. So let's do it. And when you're a competitor, these guys are different now. When you get these pro football players, okay, we know their bodies are different. We know that they can do crazy things with their bodies, but these guys are different. There's a competitive nature. There's a competitiveness in them that it's different. It's cool. It's really neat. And when you watch it, and you watch them before a game, and the way they change, and and there's a lot of that in that locker room. It's really, that's what makes these guys so special.
All right, we got Tim in the second row to the left. We've got two more.
I assume you didn't miss throughout the season the reports that Jim Harbaugh was on his way out, that he had lost the locker room, and also reports that you were in line maybe to be the next coach. What did you think about those reports? Do you think they destabilized the team, the season, and what did that do to your relationship with Jim Harbaugh and maybe with Vic Fangio?
I don't think that had any effect on my relationship with either one of those guys. I don't think there was an effect on it. Nobody can control what people write or speculate or do. I never...
You think they were bad?
I thought it was terrible, but I mean, what are you going to do? I mean, how are you stopping it? How are you stopping people?
It turned out to all be true, so.
Well, I don't know. Well, I didn't read them all.
You're sitting up there.
Yeah, I'm sitting here, but I mean, I didn't read, I don't know all the dynamics of all those things. I wasn't a part of that, so, I mean, I can't.
When your name was mentioned, what were you?
Well, that was just terribly uncomfortable, obviously. I mean, it was terribly uncomfortable. I wish whoever wrote it wouldn't have wrote it, or whoever said it wouldn't have said it. I mean, but I mean, I can't sit up here and tell you, what am I going to do about it? I can't, nothing I can do about it.
Talked to Harbaugh recently?
No, I haven't. I have not.
We've got Janie in the front row.
Trent and Jed, Jim spoke specifically about a proactive approach in his interviews with you two in terms of cleaning up maybe some of the things that have happened off the field. What did he offer that kind of sold you on that front? And can it be as simple as guys taking responsibility for picking up their shoes and some of those basic things?
I mean, again, Jim's our head coach not because of one specific answer. It's because of the body of work and everything that he had and he put together. You know, in terms of things like that, you know, again, it sounds juvenile to say, you know, guys picking up their trash in the locker room helps create a culture that doesn't have off-the-field issues. I mean, it does. But you look back in history, you look at New York City, there was crime-ridden in the 1980s, and you look at what the people did there of fixing broken windows, fixing graffiti, fixing little things like that, and it's amazing how that has a big effect on a larger issue and larger violent crime. You know, so, I mean, you look at those things, little things matter. When you're talking about winning a Super Bowl, you know, it's not about having the most innovative scheme on this side of the ball or that side of the ball. It's not about having the best player here. You know, in basketball, you know, one player, that's 20% of your team. That makes a big difference. One player in football, it's 1/22nd of your team. You know, 1/25th, 1/30th when you're talking about special teams and guys that really contribute on a daily basis. So it's a bunch of collections of little things that make the difference. And I think that's the level of accountability and responsibility that Jim takes for this, and understanding that those little details all add up. So it wasn't just one specific answer. And a lot of people can say, well, this is what I do and this is what I do. Like, you actually got to see it with Jim, and you get to see it in his resume, and you get to see it going all the way back. So again, it's a process, it's a collection of data, it's making sure you do the right research and the right homework. And again, it ultimately culminated in Jim Tomsula being, you know, the 17th and now the 19th head coach of the San Francisco 49ers.
We got one more.
Well, I'm going to apologize to Jane. That was a remedial example that I made. I'm sorry for that, you know. But, you know, just trying to make the point of doing the little things correct.
I'd like to add something to that, because I think one thing to keep in mind is that the structure that we had in place, what I don't want people leaving here thinking is that because Coach Harbaugh is no longer here, all of these things are going to change, or that he was the cause of this. That's not where this is going. As we look at this from a structural perspective and an organizational perspective, there's things that we need to do better, that I need to do better. All right, this isn't about one individual. This is about the team once again. This is about each and every player holding themselves accountable, each and every person on the staff holding themselves accountable. Let's not try to put this in one person's lap, because that's not at all what we're trying to do. We're looking at this from an organizational perspective with the understanding that we all, and I emphasize that, we all have to do a better job. And that starts with me.
Starts with me.
Well,
Yeah.
it starts with you.
Last question.
Correction.
Last question, back left, blue shirt.
Dave Delagrande from Sports Exchange. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think a lot of successful NFL head coaches have come from the defensive line. First off, why do you think that's the case? And secondly, what makes you different?
I don't know the facts to support that. So I can't comment on that part. I have a hard time I mean, I don't know any defensive line coaches, you know, where people started in their coaching careers. I mean, I've coached linebackers, I ran the special teams for 8 or 9 years in NFL Europe and in college. I've coached the offensive line, you know, and all of the, you know, in the player development, in the international player development. I've actually coached quarterbacks and running backs and taught people how to hold the ball and run the ball and which hand to have the ball in, and receivers on how to stand and stem and break. I've had to teach all those, you know, that was part of what we did in the NFL Europe as you built this. So you know, I didn't teach John Elway how to throw a football, or Joe Montana, or Steve Young, but you know, just the mechanics of it and understanding it. I've had my hands in all that, and so you know, a well-roundedness of doing it. You know, when we go back to the personal relationships, taking information and teaching it to someone, and you know, part of the magic of teaching to me is the pupil. All the pupils are different, so the approach has to be able to change, and you have to be able to be fluid in what you do. You know, I use Ian Williams and Glenn Dorsey, Quentin Dow this year, playing the nose guard position. 3 completely different body types, 3 completely different players. I coach all 3 different to achieve the same job, as they all have a different skill set. So we're always trying to enhance what they do best, and then bring up the areas that are lacking. We're trying to make you better there, but I would say, I mean, Ian Williams and Glenn Dorsey, that pair there, I mean, those 2 guys playing the nose guard position, I dare tell anybody that's 2 of the best guys in the middle you're going to see. And then Quentin Dow coming with his body type being completely different, and how hard he worked at that, and he plays a completely different than those guys, you know. And then you go back to Isaac Sopoaga and Brian Frank, you know, you go, all these guys play different, but we get the desired result. I mean, you end the season and you say, wow, those guys are playing really well, you know. And so you don't like to make comparisons that's why you don't like to compare players. You know, it's very easy for people to try to compare our linebackers, you know, compare our running back. That's all unfair to me. I mean, everybody has different skill sets, and you know, when I'm talking about teaching, I'm looking at what is it and how do you get there, and being able to be fluid in that road to get where you need to be.
All right, that'll conclude the press conference. We're going to head into the locker room for a photo op, and then we'll break off and facilitate some interviews with the writers. TVs, we're going to be able to come back here and do some stand-ups with Coach after that. We're going into the locker room now, yes. Everybody just head over to the locker room.